We've got breaking news coming to you live from the editing chair this week. Yoshi has just sent a message minutes ago saying we are planning on releasing a content-focused update this coming week, mainly including a few of the heroes that we've been working on that already. And so you hear it from the source, a content update upcoming this week with some of the heroes that I'm sure we've been talking about. Oh boy, I cannot wait. Now, let's get back to the rest of the video. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back, as always, to another edition of Deadlock Weekly, the show where I bring you all the latest news, leaks, esports roundups, and more every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you want to stay in the loop, make sure to subscribe. And then, guys, our number one thing on the docket this week, OneWin is disbanding their Deadlock team. OneWin announced on Twitter they're leaving the Deadlock space, and I and a lot of people in the comments on the post found this incredibly peculiar. To me, it's impossible for this to not be some sort of an internal drama or dispute. It just makes zero sense to stick with this game, especially through the most recent shit chapter that it's been through, honestly, this summer, and then to pull the plug right once we get to the doorstep of this massive update impending, right? And the game, frankly, getting better in the past couple of patches. And one thing that I didn't talk about as it comes to OneWin that I definitely should have at the time was, I think last week or maybe the week before, ABL was in the same lobby as Metro while Metro was streaming, and ABL called someone the N-word, which Metro then, to his credit, was clearly like, what the fuck, and muted ABL. And OneWin did hit ABL with a fine, but it was of an unlisted amount, so who knows if that fine was $500, $5, or 5 cents. And this is where we get into OneWin as an org in general. They're a relatively new Russian esports org founded in 2020 on Counter-Strike, but at their core, they're an online casino trying to get into esports. Their teams are mostly tier 2. If I'm honest, I don't think OneWin cares nearly as much about that situation as we do, but I do wonder if it was a catalyst for perhaps an internal situation that brought an end to the Deadlock roster. Because at the end of the day, ABL ultimately gets a slap on the wrist and can keep playing because he's one of the few best players in the world. But that's not going to be the case when this game goes to open beta. We've talked a ton about the high hopes I have for this game, and a pro player saying the N-word in just about any other tier 1 esport is borderline career ending, because there's plenty of talent to replace them. And that'll be the case for Deadlock, and I could totally see this biting ABL in the ass later on down the line when he's looking for a new team. And this is all theory, all my theory, but I wonder if perhaps another player saw how big of an issue this could be for them in the future if it becomes repeat behavior and decide that they want out. And with the stage that Deadlock is in right now, they thought, they meaning OneWin, it would be more advantageous to focus their resources on their Counter-Strike and Dota teams, which, you know, are obviously much more active esports, and not to focus on re-signing a Deadlock roster or however many players of a Deadlock roster. I have to assume it's essentially coming down to internal business and priorities, because pulling the plug now just doesn't make sense. Then, guys, we got some big leaks as well this week relating to Bookworm, Boho, and Lash, and we went over these pretty in-depth on Friday's video about everything we know in the upcoming major update, but a quick summary for you here is that we got a couple Loch Ness monster level screenshots of Boho and Bookworm from a leaker on Reddit, and these are legit. They line up with other information that we've gotten, but that wasn't enough for some folks, and I don't blame you, but the leaker uploaded this model of Lash, and if I had to guess, the reason that they are so Loch Ness Bigfoot level is because Valve has some sort of build number now or watermark on the private build at all times to identify leakers if they just post a screenshot or something. And I've also heard that people in the playtest have since had to sign NDAs, but I can't verify that for certain, but it makes total sense that they would. Then, guys, the next thing on our docket is rank distribution. Over the past month, the average rank has actually free-fallen from high ritualist, low emissary to now the top of the bell curve is at high arcanist. And as we all know, Deadlock isn't attracting a ton of new players. They're there, but not really. And we've all been playing the game for months now, right? So you'd think we'd all be getting better, and we are. It's obvious. I think everybody has noticed how people now in emissary, they're swapping for matchups or chasing after the right people in a team fight. And I'd bet in the lower ranks, people are starting to tower dive to finish kills and actually get them and stuff like that. And I'm no expert in elo systems, so I'm not going to pretend to have like a hard answer for you about why people are getting better, but ranks aren't getting better. But matchmaking is just generally cooked. That's what we go back to. It matches you up with people who are way out of your skill bracket. Combined with that, the meta's been relatively stable for the past few months. And so some people have just gotten good at it. So that's part of it. But I absolutely have noticed the skill level in the same ranks go up this summer. Emissary is much harder than it was in Emissary in May. So yeah, I don't really have a hard answer for you on this one, but I can easily see us extending this conversation into next week. So let me know what your thoughts on this are below. Then guys, I kind of love that we get this. Happy birthday, Shiv. Shiv's birthday was on August 15th, Friday this week. I think it's just really cool that we get to be able to go back and see, like, okay, Viscus was added on this day. Shiv was added on this day. Woohoo! Happy birthday, Shiv. And then, guys, Winrates Weekly, welcome to StatLocker. Thank you to the commenter, Inshallah, who left a couple of lines of code that allows you to remove the scroll menu from StatLocker and just view it in one window. I truly cannot thank you enough. You are a hero. God truly wills that we use StatLock. And honestly, I feel like the game's in a pretty good place right now, and that might be a radical change from where I felt like we were last week, but those nerfs were exactly what Viper needed. I haven't seen complaints about single heroes like we had last week, and when I do, it's about Infernus, Wraith Haze, or the hard carries who get an absurd soul count 35 minutes in, and that's exactly how they should work, honestly. And so how are you guys feeling on balance? Maybe Warden could use a couple more nerfs, but that's just me looking at win rate. He doesn't really feel as oppressive in my games. Talon also feels somewhat back, but his general impact does still feel kind of low. I'm seeing him do more damage, but it's still not 100% there, I feel like. And actually, guys, I've just realized something as I'm sitting here recording. So StatLocker actually doesn't let you view by week. They only let you view by patch. So I'm going to pin a poll to the comments of this video. Do you guys want to do StatLocker win rates by patch or win rates by week on TrackLocker? If I'm honest, I think StatLocker probably has slightly more reliable information, but TrackLocker is going to get us win rates weekly and not win rates patchly. So that poll is going to be pinned in the comments. Let me know what you think. That's going to determine what we do moving forward, because honestly, I'm at a little bit of a crossroads here because I really like win rates weekly. Then, guys, as we get into our tournament roundup, Deadlock Night Shift, formerly Fight Night, has finally returned, and I am so pumped about it. Abraham's completely shut Winwin's coffin in the EU this week, beating them 2-0, starting with just a real beatdown on map 1, half of one win's roster. We're just ghosts this game, and this might just be me talking, but a great draft on map 1 for Abraham's helped propel them here. And then on map 2, Hoot really just put the team on his back and hard carried on Warden with a much less lopsided match, but Hoot's the story there. And speaking of stories, we're going into a horror movie for North America. It's ugly. I think I heard correctly that the full team name for PKP is Pure Kicks Puppies. Well, Hydra Nation kicks puppies today, or on Wednesday, and unabated ass kicking in North America this week. I go back to Styler at the LAN talking about how much more insanely difficult competitive play is than even the hardest Eternus 6 lobbies, and this match is a great example of that, of just how skilled Hydra Nation is. And PKP is a new but still organized team. Hydra Nation just reigns supreme for this week at least. And then, guys, the Death Slam Invitational Finals are going on this week, and we'll talk about the results of that next week. Then, speaking of Death Slam, the Death Slam League in North America starts tomorrow, and the Death Slam League in Europe actually wrapped up their regular season this week, and their playoffs are just a few weeks away, and we'll talk about that as we get closer. Then, guys, let's talk some Deadlock. Mr. Dangerous Shark starts us off first here and says sometimes still implies way longer than a month, in my opinion. I'm not expecting anything huge until mid-September. And Mr. Dangerous Shark, thank you so much for being a member, but I'm not gonna lie, homie, I think you're wrong. But I also, if I'm gonna be honest, you'd probably be happy if you're wrong and the patch comes out a couple weeks early, right? So I think you're wrong, but there are worse things to be wrong about. And you know, who knows? I could wind up with egg on my face on this one. Then Greg Where's the Mayo said, I predict this is not an open beta. The way I see it, based on the progress so far from big updates, after this next big one, I only foresee 2 more big updates. 2 more after this next update till the open beta, which at Valve's current speed, assuming that this update comes within the next 2 weeks, should be around 6 to 8 months. And I saw a lot of comments about the open beta this week, and I know I was previously in the camp of they could drop the open beta at any time and it'd be successful, and I still am theoretically, right? Like, I still believe that, but I think it'd be advantageous for the game to maybe have a couple weeks after the heroes drop, because they're about to throw an insane wrench into the meta by adding all this content. And there's a serious risk that the balance absolutely sucks. But then you lose all the hype of the open beta going with so much new content. And then I also think back to when I started as a player back in August last year. I didn't even know what the jungle was, nonetheless caring about what balance was. So I don't really know. I'm happy I don't have to make that decision, but I think there's something to be said about leaving some breathing room between a massive game shakeup and open beta. And then Bushy Boo keeps commenting August 21st, 2025, which I just want to call this out that they've been commenting this on all the videos recently, so we can either praise or curse their home with a swarm of locusts on, that's Thursday. Great, that's my guess too. So you're not allowed to send a plague unto my house if that isn't it. Just boo. Then guys, we had some awesome videos this week, honestly. Starting with Poshy Pop, put out a video about what Deadlock's pros do with Sinners that you don't. Just a great little tutorial talking about the importance of specifically the double Sinner boxes, but just Sinner Sacrifice in general. And a little bit of a companion video to that is Andrew Chicken put out a bit of a live test to show in game just how many souls, buffs, etc. that you actually wind up getting by doing that in game. And it really is a huge amount of value. And Deadlock content's been kind of popping off this week now that I look at it from a bird's eye view on Sunday. And Deathy put out a bunch of new educational videos that are super helpful, and I actually haven't even gotten to the newest one yet, but I mean, come on, you really think it's not going to be worth your time? And then Connor over at Dead Unlock started a new series in depth going through items and the use cases that they have. So I've been really enjoying that one, throwing it on when I'm at work. Love all the like podcast-esque kind of stuff. Then, guys, we did have a couple of cool new mods. The Yamato mod actually got an update. Stylized Senzu updated that mod with an alternate color scheme, which is just unreal. And actually not what I'm using in this video. I've got the older version. It came out while I was recording the gameplay last night. And it's funny, I mentioned that Valve should just pay this person and use the mod as the default skin, and actually that wouldn't be the first time. It turns out that Stylized Senzu used to work as a contract artist on Dota 2, and that's just so funny. It makes total sense how they're able to knock it out of the park here then. I just think that's such a fun fact. And then, guys, Dynamo. Professor Dynamo got a new mod made by What, and he has dropped his professor coat to a nice Hawaiian shirt and is enjoying his summer break, the last few weeks of it. Good to be a Professor Dynamo main. Then, guys, that's all I got for you this time. I want to thank you so very much for watching, and thank you so much to the members. The list grows. If you want to become a member and get access to Deadlock Weekly early, exclusive videos, and just support a creator who loves this game, you can find a link to that down in the description. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you again next weekend. Peace.